objective. The reservation school is brown and bleak with bugs' guts. So you've got brown, bleak, bugs. You have the use of alliteration, a very strong literary term, which is repetition. When you use repetition with the first consonant of every letter, you get a certain kind of rhythm and cadence. That rhythm and cadence is going to have an effect on you as a reader from that triadic point of view, triadic relationship point of view, and it's going to make the poem dance, and it's going to make whatever's happening in the poem be all that much more punctuated. The reservation school is brown and bleak with bugs, guts mashed against walls. You can't get a stronger visual imagery. It's horrific. And rodent pellets reeking in corners. So you get the smell and the look of these piles of rat shit. And then you have years of lies fade into the black chalkboard. Just this dark void of erasure. Erasure, the invisibility, the ghostly, the haunting, the secret deceptions and lies. A thin American flag, so totally weathered, with 48 stars hangs lank. So you just see this thing, it's like a dead rose hanging there. Why 48 stars? Because it amplifies and punctuates the fact that this place is so neglected that it doesn't even have a flag that represents the 50 states in the US, right? So hangs lank over broken desks. So there it's hanging and all the desks are dilapidated. You get a pretty good picture of how terrible this classroom and this place and space is. What are we learning? What is anybody learning in this space except for this idea of unbelonging, neglect, rejection, lack of care or erasure. And then you get Tuscarora, one of the Trail of Tears nations. Then you go from the to my. My reservation is a possessive pronoun. So you go from the objective to the subjective, and you have my reservation home is dusty. My mother grows puffy with disease, her left eye infected, open forever. Outside the bedroom window, my dirty, snotty brother Roy claws the ground, scratching like the goat who gnaws the garden. So here you have goat gnaws garden, ground goat gnaws garden, alliteration. You have the word like. Wherever you have like or as, you have a simile. And that simile is two dissimilar things brought together in an analogous way, but they're so different that you're like, this doesn't jive. But somehow that contradiction really spells out or amplifies, again, punctuates just how rotten this place is. And now it's personal. Now it's his reservation. Now it's her, his or her. Whoever the poet is, the speaker in the poem. That's not R.T. Smith, it's the speaker in the poem, the invented character, just like Frankenstein. Dr. Frankenstein talking is an invented voice, an invented character. But this person feels invisible. They feel like a ghost in their own home. And they feel like the home is not even present. It's an absent, erased place, marginalized. So the brother, there's something wrong with the brother too. He's obviously suffering from fetal alcohol syndrome or some kind of disease that affects his psychology because people don't scratch on the ground like goats, okay? Choctaw, another punctuation of the Trail of Tears. My father drinks, and the mother's got diabetes or something. She's a drinker. It's dusty. There just seems like there's no water. It's dehydrated. It's thirsty. It's like a famine space. It's a ghost space. My father drinks pale moon.
What does this Choctaw mean?
It's one of the nations, one of the indigenous nations. So when I talk about the Trail of Tears and the Cherokee and the Choctaw, there's 500 nations in America. That's just one of the tribes. So the reason he's dividing the stanzas is to show that identity is not just some universal Plains Indian. There are all these different nations. My father drinks pale moonshine whiskey, and it's part of the cadence. Choctaw, Tuscarora, you know. And gambles recklessly at the garage, kicks dust between weeds in the evening, and dances a fake feathered rain dance. Well, first of all, dance is sacred to a lot of Native nations. They dance, jingle dance, dances for all kinds of spiritual practices and atonement, and for hunting, and for sacred peace pipe smoking, and buffalo magic, and whatever it is that they're working on. Dance is very sacred. So dancing a fake feathered rain dance, feathers are also highly spiritual and very important. So dancing a fake feathered rain dance, that is very dismissive, debasing, dehumanizing, and humiliating. And of course, he's doing it so that he can get money for booze. What are natives traditionally associated with stereotypically? What does Neil Diamond tell us? What does Adam Beach from Manitoba say in Real Engine about alcoholism and the reservation system? Bad combination, terrible, really horrible. So even the snakes have left, and even the sun cannot stand to watch. Well, snakes don't leave. They don't go, hey, I'm going to the party. You want to join me? Let's go. I'm tired. This party's boring. They don't leave. They're being personified. Why are they being personified? They're given human traits because that shows us, well, even snakes, there's nothing lower than a snake's belly. He's saying even snakes don't like it here. Like a snake pretty much doesn't care, but the snake is not indifferent in this case. It doesn't want to be there. And the sun, which watches over all of us, we don't have a choice, doesn't want to be there either. I don't think it can get clearer how horrible this place is, right? How unsettling and haunted it really is by the past. And it's that past, that monster of colonization, yet once again, that's rearing its head. So, Cherokee, our final stanza. It's not enough. We haven't been bombarded enough with visual, auditory, feeling, imagery. Our last stanza here. Our limping, so we've got a lame dog, sniffs a coil of hot shit. So diction, word choice. Diction becomes really important because when authors choose certain words, that's not because they're just going, oh, I just feel like saying the word shit today. It's because that word is going to, again, punctuate the atmosphere, the sort of imagery that they're trying to elicit, tell us something about the character, whatever it is, the tone, amplify the tone of anger, in this case, red anger. Near the outhouse, so it's not even plumbing. There's no real plumbing, which tells you it's unhygienic to some degree. My sister shot herself with a .22. Well, that's a pretty picture. So here again, we have this lens of love, family, and marriage, not very attractive. And I walk, in meager fields to work in a tourist lunch stand. That word tourist, it just crawls up my back because it's just implying like somebody who's a foreigner, who doesn't understand, who's out for enjoyment, who thinks life is like grand and is going to look at a reservation for the first time and go, wow, Indians, yeah, wow, I heard about those guys, and so the bitterness is really clear here as a theme and as a tone in the speaker. And he says, I nurse my anger like a seed, so that seed's going to grow exponentially, and the whites would wonder why I spit in their hamburgers. Tuscarora, Choctaw, Cherokee, the Trail of Tears never ends. So, again, we have a very kind of negative character or characterization of the speaker of this poem, similar to like the kind of negativity of a lot of the anger that's kind of expressed in even Neil Diamond's piece, even though he satirizes their own representation. There's still a lot of undercurrent of anger and distrust and misrepresentation. You have a similar idea happening here. with the voice of, you know, saying, hey, I'm invisible and this is what I live with and this is how I've had to live. And, you know, in that kind of space, he does something that's kind of really tactless, right? An act of kind of retribution and revenge. He spits in the tourist hamburgers. So, how do you feel about that? Are you sympathetic with him or her? No? Why? I mean, I sympathize with the character. I think it's a terrible, horrible environment and situation and history, and he's so haunted, and it's so sad, and it really is the conditions that some people are living in even in Manitoba on the reservation system, which isn't functioning anymore, you know, like this, and so disenfranchised. So why are we not sympathetic though? Because many of us are not. Why? Anybody want to say? Why you're not sympathetic? Okay, well then, if you don't want to say, then we'll just write. So let's pull out a piece of paper and we'll write an in-class